In the annals of American crime, few stories have captured the imagination like that of Lizzie Borden. A tale shrouded in mystery and speculation, it's a saga that has intrigued true crime enthusiasts for over a century. Fall River, Massachusetts, 1892. A gruesome double murder rocks a small town. Andrew and Abby Borden, found brutally hacked to death in their home. Amidst the shock and horror, one suspect emerges, their youngest daughter, Lizzie. But was Lizzie Borden really capable of such a heinous act? Her trial became a national sensation, questioning the very nature of innocence and guilt. Join me as we delve into the depths of this historic case, exploring the evidence, the theories, and the enduring legacy of the Lizzie Borden story. This is the true and complete tale of Lizzie Borden, a story that remains as chilling and contentious today as it was over a century ago. Lizzie Andrew Borden was born into the burgeoning industrial town of Fall River, Massachusetts, on July 19, 1860. Her father, Andrew Jackson Borden, rose from modest beginnings to become a successful property developer and businessman. Despite his financial success, Andrew was known for his frugality. The Borden residence, in a relatively affluent area of Fall River, notably lacked indoor plumbing, a common luxury among the wealthy of that era. The young Lizzie, along with her older sister Emma, grew up in a household marked by stringent religious values. They regularly attended the Central Congregational Church, where Lizzie was actively involved in church activities. Her commitment extended to teaching Sunday school, primarily to children of recent immigrants, and participating in Christian organizations like the Christian Endeavor Society and the Woman's Christian Temperance Union. After the death of Lizzie's mother, Sarah, Andrew remarried Abby Durfee Gray in 1865. Lizzie and Emma had a complicated relationship with their stepmother, with Lizzie referring to her as Mrs. Borden, a formality suggesting a lack of warmth between them. The Borden sisters led a relatively isolated life, rarely sharing meals with their parents. This distance within the family was accentuated by an incident in 1892, when Andrew killed multiple pigeons in his barn, upsetting Lizzie, who had cared for them. Tensions within the family continued to rise, culminating in a significant argument in July 1892, leading both sisters to temporarily leave the Borden home. Little did anyone know, these undercurrents within the Borden household were precursors to a tragedy that would become one of the most infamous in American history. The Borden household in Fall River, Massachusetts, was a cauldron of suppressed tensions and unspoken grievances. At its head was Andrew Jackson Borden, a man who climbed the ranks to become one of the town's leading businessmen. Despite his considerable wealth, Andrew's life was far from serene. Known for his strict and controlling nature, his relationship with his daughters, Emma and Lizzie, was strained and complex. Abby Borden, Lizzie's stepmother, entered the picture after the death of Lizzie's biological mother. The bond between Abby and her stepdaughters was tenuous, with Lizzie maintaining a formal, distant relationship, referring to her as Mrs. Borden. Emma Borden, Lizzie's older sister, shared a strong bond with Lizzie during their early years, but as time passed, their relationship became fraught. The sisters experienced a strict upbringing under their father's authoritarian regime. The friction within the family escalated with Andrew's decision to provide property to his wife's family, deepening the divide. Emma, known for her reserved nature, grew increasingly distant from Lizzie, a gap that widened after the infamous murders. The murders of Andrew and Abby Borden on August 4, 1892, only served to exacerbate the existing familial tensions. Emma, though she stood by Lizzie during the trial, ultimately distanced herself from her sister, moving out of the family home and severing ties. The Borden family, once a picture of Victorian propriety, was irrevocably shattered, its secrets and sorrows forever entwined with the mystery of that fateful day in August. August 4, 1892, began as an ordinary day in the Borden household in Fall River, Massachusetts. The family's guest, John Morse, had breakfast with Andrew and Abby Borden and their live-in maid, Bridget Sullivan. After breakfast, Morse left the Borden residence around 8:48 a.m., planning to return for lunch. Andrew Borden left for his routine morning walk shortly after 9 a.m. Unbeknownst to anyone, a sinister plot was unfolding within the walls of the Borden home. Between 9 and 10:30 a.m., Abby Borden went upstairs to tidy the guest room, a task usually reserved for Lizzie and Emma. There, she met her gruesome fate. Facing her attacker, Abby was struck on the side of the head with a hatchet. The blow caused her to fall, face down. The assailant then delivered 17 more direct hits to the back of her head, ending her life. Around 10:30 a.m., Andrew returned home to find the door jammed. Sullivan, hearing his knocks, went to unlock it. As she struggled with the door, she heard laughter from upstairs, later testifying that it came from Lizzie's direction. After assisting Andrew with his slippers, Sullivan retreated to her room, unaware of the horror unfolding downstairs. Before 11:10 a.m., a chilling cry broke the silence. "Maggie, come quick. Father's dead. Somebody came in and killed him." Andrew Borden was found slumped on the living room couch, struck 10 or 11 times with a hatchet-like weapon. One of his eyes was split in two, indicating he was likely asleep when attacked. The still bleeding wounds pointed to a recent attack. The brutal murders of Andrew and Abby Borden sent shockwaves through Fall River and beyond, marking the beginning of one of the most notorious unsolved mysteries in American history. August 4, 1892, began as an ordinary day in the Borden household in Fall River, Massachusetts. The family's guest, John Morse, had breakfast with Andrew and Abby Borden and their live-in maid, Bridget Sullivan. After breakfast, Morse left the Borden residence around 8:48 a.m., planning to return for lunch. Andrew Borden left for his routine morning walk shortly after 9 a.m. Unbeknownst to anyone, a sinister plot was unfolding within the walls of the Borden home. Between 9 and 10:30 a.m., Abby Borden went upstairs to tidy the guest room, a task usually reserved for Lizzie and Emma. There, she met her gruesome fate. Facing her attacker, Abby was struck on the side of the head with a hatchet. The blow caused her to fall, face down. The assailant then delivered 17 more direct hits to the back of her head, ending her life. Around 10:30 a.m., Andrew returned home to find the door jammed. Sullivan, hearing his knocks, went to unlock it. As she struggled with the door, she heard laughter from upstairs, later testifying that it came from Lizzie's direction. After assisting Andrew with his slippers, Sullivan retreated to her room, unaware of the horror unfolding downstairs. Before 11:10 a.m., a chilling cry broke the silence. "Maggie, come quick. Father's dead. Somebody came in and killed him." Andrew Borden was found slumped on the living room couch, struck 10 or 11 times with a hatchet-like weapon. One of his eyes was split in two, indicating he was likely asleep when attacked. The still bleeding wounds pointed to a recent attack. The brutal murders of Andrew and Abby Borden sent shockwaves through Fall River and beyond, marking the beginning of one of the most notorious unsolved mysteries in American history. In the immediate aftermath of the shocking double murder in the Borden household, the Fall River Police Department faced a case that would soon become one of the most notorious in American criminal history. The early investigation steps were crucial yet fraught with challenges. Firstly, the police commenced with a rudimentary examination of the crime scene. In 1892, forensic science was in its infancy, and the methods employed were basic compared to today's standards. The police faced the daunting task of gathering evidence in a situation where the understanding of crime scene preservation was minimal. This lack of advanced forensic techniques meant that potentially vital evidence may have been overlooked or contaminated. One of the significant challenges was the absence of fingerprinting technology, which was not widely used in criminal investigations until the early 20th century. As a result, the police had to rely heavily on eyewitness accounts and physical evidence that could be visibly assessed. Furthermore, the police faced difficulties due to the high-profile nature of the case. The Borden family was well known in the community, and the gruesome nature of the murders attracted immense public attention and speculation. This public scrutiny added pressure on the police to quickly find the perpetrator, potentially leading to hasty conclusions. The initial evidence collection focused on the murder weapon, with the police recovering a hatchet from the Borden's basement, which was suspected to be the murder weapon. However, definitive proof linking this hatchet to the murders was never established. In addition to the physical evidence, the police also conducted interviews with the Borden family members and household staff. Lizzie Borden's contradictory and sometimes changing statements during the investigation raised suspicions, eventually leading to her becoming the primary suspect. In summary, the police investigation into the Borden murders was hindered by the limitations of the time's forensic science, the challenges of handling a high-profile case, and the need to rely on less reliable forms of evidence. Despite their best efforts, the mystery surrounding the Borden murders remains, leaving us with more questions than answers. The investigation of the brutal murders of Andrew and Abby Borden soon focused on an unlikely suspect, their youngest daughter, Lizzie Borden. There were several reasons why Lizzie became the primary suspect, which reflected both the evidence at hand and the societal context of the time. First and foremost, Lizzie's proximity to the crime scene was a crucial factor. She was one of the few people known to be in the house at the time of the murders. Her older sister, Emma, was away, and the maid, Bridget Sullivan, was reportedly resting in her room. This limited pool of potential suspects naturally cast suspicion on Lizzie. Moreover, Lizzie's behavior and statements to the police raised eyebrows. Her account of her whereabouts and activities on the morning of the murders contained inconsistencies and changes over time. For instance, she initially claimed to be in the barn during the time her father was murdered, a story which some officers found implausible given the hot weather and her attire. Another factor that led to suspicion was the strained relationship between Lizzie and her stepmother, Abby. Witnesses and acquaintances of the Borden family spoke of the growing familial tensions, particularly Lizzie's formal and distant behavior towards Abby. This perceived animosity provided a possible motive for the crime. The discovery of a burnt dress by a friend of Lizzie's also contributed to the suspicions. Lizzie claimed she had burned the dress because it was stained with paint, but the timing of this action, shortly after the murders, was seen by many as suspicious, potentially an attempt to destroy evidence. Furthermore, the era's societal norms played a role in the suspicion. The idea of a woman, particularly from a well-off family, committing such a heinous crime was shocking. Some people found it hard to believe, while others saw it as a sign of hidden depravity. The public and media scrutiny of Lizzie's demeanor and behavior during and after the murders only intensified the suspicion. In summary, Lizzie Borden's transition from a grieving daughter to the prime suspect in her parents' brutal murder was driven by a combination of circumstantial evidence, societal prejudices, and the peculiarities of her own behavior in the wake of the crime. These factors collectively led to her arrest and the subsequent trial that gripped the nation. The trial of Lizzie Borden for the murders of her father and stepmother in June 1893 was a landmark event, drawing national attention. This trial was rife with key moments, critical testimonies, and strategic legal maneuverings that kept the public and media engrossed. One of the trial's pivotal moments was the presentation of the hatchet found in the Borden's basement. The prosecution argued this was the murder weapon, partly based on its broken handle, which they speculated was deliberately snapped off to destroy evidence. However, the lack of clear forensic evidence connecting this hatchet to the murders became a significant point of contention. Testimonies played a crucial role in shaping the trial's narrative. Bridget Sullivan, the Borden's maid, testified about her activities on the day of the murders and Lizzie's behavior, which seemed oddly calm and collected. However, her testimony did not conclusively point to Lizzie's guilt. The testimony of Alice Russell, a friend of Lizzie's, was particularly impactful. She recounted Lizzie burning a dress shortly after the murders, suggesting this act could have been an attempt to destroy evidence. However, Lizzie's defense argued that the dress was stained with paint, not blood, rendering its burning irrelevant to the case. A crucial strategic move by the defense was to question the reliability and admissibility of certain evidence. Notably, they successfully argued against the inclusion of Lizzie's inquest testimony, where she had been questioned without a lawyer present and had provided contradictory statements. The judge ruled this testimony inadmissible, dealing a significant blow to the prosecution's case. Another key strategy involved portraying Lizzie as a respectable, church-going woman, unlikely to commit such a heinous act. This depiction played into the societal norms and prejudices of the time, challenging the jury's willingness to believe a woman of her standing could be a murderer. The trial also saw its share of dramatic moments, including Lizzie fainting when the skulls of her father and stepmother were presented as evidence. In conclusion, the trial of Lizzie Borden was a complex mix of legal strategies, societal perceptions, and pivotal testimony, all culminating in her acquittal. The lack of direct evidence, combined with the societal reluctance to convict a woman of Lizzie's background, ultimately led to a verdict that has fueled debates and theories for over a century. The Lizzie Borden case, from the gruesome murders to the sensational trial, was a media frenzy in its time, significantly shaping public opinion. The portrayal of the case in the media and the ensuing public reactions played a crucial role in how the events were perceived both then and in the years to follow. From the outset, newspapers across the country were captivated by the story. The graphic nature of the murders, combined with the upper-class status of the Borden family, made for sensational headlines. Media coverage often bordered on the sensationalist, with newspapers delving into every possible aspect of the case, the family's history, and Lizzie Borden's life. Lizzie herself was a subject of intense media scrutiny. The press oscillated between portraying her as a cold-blooded murderess and as a genteel lady of high society unjustly accused. These contrasting depictions reflected the era's societal tensions and prejudices, particularly regarding gender roles and the expectations of women. Photographs and illustrations of Lizzie, the crime scene, and the trial proceedings were widely circulated, adding a visual dimension to the already dramatic narrative. This visual representation played a significant part in shaping public opinion, as people could see the elements of the story, albeit through a sensationalized lens. Public opinion during the trial was deeply divided. Some viewed Lizzie as a victim of a miscarriage of justice, persecuted because she was an unmarried woman who defied societal norms. Others believed she was guilty, with her calm demeanor and inconsistent statements seen as evidence of her guilt. The media's role in the case also extended to the courtroom, with reporters often providing daily, detailed accounts of the trial proceedings. These reports kept the public engrossed and influenced how people viewed the case's development and Lizzie's character. In summary, the media coverage of the Lizzie Borden case was a spectacle of its own, reflecting and amplifying the societal attitudes of the time. The intense public interest and media scrutiny made the case a topic of national conversation, a status it maintains even today. The trial of Lizzie Borden presented a dramatic legal battle between the defense and the prosecution, each side armed with its own set of arguments and interpretations of the evidence. The prosecution's case. The prosecution aimed to paint Lizzie Borden as a cold, calculated murderer. Their arguments centered on several key points. Circumstantial evidence. The prosecution pointed to Lizzie's presence in the house at the time of the murders and her inconsistent statements regarding her whereabouts as strong circumstantial evidence of her guilt. Motive and opportunity. The prosecution suggested that family tensions, particularly Lizzie's resentment towards her stepmother, provided a motive. They also argued that Lizzie had the opportunity to commit the crimes, given her proximity to the crime scenes. Physical evidence. Although limited, the prosecution highlighted the discovery of the hatchet in the Borden basement, which they proposed was the murder weapon. The burning of Lizzie's dress was also presented as an attempt to destroy evidence. Behavioral evidence. Lizzie's calm demeanor after the murders and her alleged attempt to purchase prussic acid, a poisonous substance, were presented to cast further suspicion on her. The defense's counterarguments. The defense, led by Andrew Jennings and former Massachusetts Governor George D. Robinson, mounted a strong case. Lack of direct evidence. The defense emphasized the lack of direct evidence linking Lizzie to the murders, arguing that circumstantial evidence was insufficient for a conviction. Character defense. They portrayed Lizzie as a respectable, church-going woman, playing on the societal beliefs of the time that a woman of her standing was incapable of committing such a heinous act. Questioning evidence reliability. The defense challenged the reliability and admissibility of key pieces of evidence, including the alleged murder weapon and Lizzie's inquest testimony. Alternative scenarios. While not directly accusing anyone else, the defense suggested that the murders could have been committed by an unknown intruder, casting doubt on the prosecution's narrative. In conclusion, the trial of Lizzie Borden culminated in a verdict that has echoed through the annals of American legal history. After approximately an hour and a half of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict of not guilty. This decision, reached on June 20, 1893, acquitted Lizzie of the charges of murdering her father and stepmother. The verdict was met with mixed reactions. Some members of the public, who had followed the trial closely through extensive media coverage, were shocked and dismayed, firmly believing in Lizzie's guilt. Conversely, others, influenced by the defense's portrayal of Lizzie as a respectable woman caught in unfortunate circumstances, felt justice had been served. The immediate aftermath of the trial saw Lizzie Borden's return to Fall River, where she and her sister, Emma, inherited a considerable portion of their father's estate. Lizzie remained a figure of public fascination and scrutiny. Despite her acquittal, many in her community continued to view her with suspicion and even outright hostility. This social ostracization was a testament to the trial's impact on public opinion. Lizzie and Emma moved to a more affluent area of Fall River, purchasing a house they named Maplecroft. However, the sisters' relationship eventually deteriorated, leading to Emma moving out in 1905. The reasons for their estrangement remain as much a mystery as the murders themselves. The trial and its outcome had a broader impact beyond the Borden sisters' lives. It highlighted the limitations of forensic science at the time and underscored the influence of media on public opinion and judicial proceeding. The case became a touchstone for discussions about gender roles, societal expectations, and the legal system in the Victorian era. In the years following the trial, the Borden murders became ingrained in American folklore, inspiring books, plays, and even a popular children's rhyme. The legacy of the case extends to modern times, where it continues to be a subject of fascination, speculation, and academic study. In summary, the acquittal of Lizzie Borden left a lasting imprint not only on her life but also on American cultural and legal history. The case remains a topic of debate and intrigue, a mystery that continues to captivate the imagination of each new generation. The acquittal of Lizzie Borden did not put an end to the speculation about who really committed the infamous murders of Andrew and Abby Borden. Over the years, a myriad of theories and speculations have emerged, each trying to solve the mystery that has baffled historians, criminologists, and the public alike. 1. Lizzie Borden guilty. Despite her acquittal, the most persistent theory remains that Lizzie Borden was indeed the perpetrator. Proponents of this theory cite her inconsistent alibis, the strange burning of her dress after the murders, and the turbulent family dynamics as circumstantial evidence of her guilt. They speculate that Lizzie may have had motives ranging from financial gain to resentment towards her stepmother and strict father. 2. Emma Borden as the culprit. Some theories propose that Lizzie's sister, Emma, was the actual murderer. Though Emma had an alibi, being out of town at the time of the murders, some speculate she could have secretly returned to commit the crime. The motive in these theories often ties back to the same family tensions that implicate Lizzie. 3. An unknown intruder. Another line of thought suggests that the murders were the work of an unknown intruder. This theory considers the possibility of a robbery gone wrong or a revenge act by someone holding a grudge against Andrew Borden, known for his business dealings and frugality. 4. John Morse's involvement. John Morse, Lizzie and Emma's uncle, who stayed at the Borden house the night before the murders, is another suspect in some theories. His presence in the house around the time of the murders and his relatively unaccounted for whereabouts during the critical hours make him a subject of suspicion. 5. Bridget Sullivan's role. Bridget Sullivan, the Borden's maid, has also been suggested as a possible suspect. Some theories posit that she could have committed the murders, either out of personal malice or under duress from another family member. 6. Other theories. Over time, numerous other theories have been proposed, including those involving complex conspiracies or even supernatural elements. These often stem from the many unresolved questions and peculiarities of the case. In conclusion, the true identity of the perpetrators of the Borden murders remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. The lack of definitive evidence and the many conflicting testimonies have allowed these theories to flourish, each providing a different lens through which to view this enduring mystery. After her acquittal, Lizzie Borden's life took a path marked by both newfound freedom and persistent public scrutiny. Her post-trial life was a mix of relative luxury and social isolation, reflecting the enduring impact of the case on her personal and public identity. Following the trial, Lizzie and her sister Emma inherited a substantial portion of their father's estate. This financial independence allowed them to purchase a new house in a more affluent area of Fall River, which Lizzie named Maplecroft. The move to Maplecroft symbolized a step away from the past, with Lizzie even changing her name to Lisbeth in an effort to distance herself from her notorious past. Despite her wealth, Lizzie's life in Fall River was not easy. She faced significant social ostracization, as many in the community continued to believe in her guilt. This public perception led to a life of relative isolation. Lizzie struggled to be accepted in social circles and often found herself the subject of gossip and speculation. In Maplecroft, Lizzie lived a life of comfort, with evidence suggesting she enjoyed hobbies and interests such as traveling, attending the theater, and engaging in shopping. However, her notoriety followed her, and she often found it challenging to escape the shadow of the murders. The relationship between Lizzie and Emma, once close, eventually deteriorated. In 1905, Emma moved out of Maplecroft, marking a significant and permanent rift between the sisters. The exact reasons for this estrangement are not entirely clear, but it is speculated that ongoing tensions related to the trial and its aftermath played a role. Lizzie Borden lived the remainder of her life in Maplecroft, passing away on June 1, 1927, due to complications from gallbladder surgery. Her death was a notable event, reigniting public interest in the infamous murders and her controversial acquittal. In summary, Lizzie Borden's later life was a complex tapestry of wealth, isolation, and enduring notoriety. Despite her acquittal, she could never fully escape the shadow of the accusations against her, living a life that was as intriguing and enigmatic as the mystery surrounding the Borden murders. The legacy of the Lizzie Borden case extends far beyond the courtroom and the historical records of Fall River. It has permeated popular culture, influencing books, films, and even folklore, leaving an indelible mark on American cultural history. Books, both fictional and non-fictional, have explored every facet of the case, offering various interpretations and speculations. These literary works range from in-depth investigative reports to fictionalized accounts, allowing readers to examine the case from multiple perspectives. In film and television, the Lizzie Borden story has been the subject of numerous adaptations. These productions often take creative liberties, adding elements of drama and mystery to the already compelling narrative. The story's inherent intrigue makes it a favorite for filmmakers looking to explore themes of family dynamics, societal norms, and the concept of justice. Perhaps one of the most enduring aspects of the Borden case's cultural impact is the famous nursery rhyme, "Lizzie Borden took an axe." This rhyme, while not accurate in its details, has cemented the case in the realm of American folklore, making it a familiar tale even to those who know little about the actual events. The case has also inspired a wide range of other artistic expressions, including plays, musicals, and even operas, each offering a unique take on the story and its central figure. In contemporary times, the Lizzie Borden case continues to be a subject of fascination and study. Modern forensic analyses, though limited by the lack of preserved evidence, have offered new insights into the murders. Forensic experts and crime historians often revisit the case, using current technology and methodologies to speculate on aspects that remained unresolved, such as the identity of the murderer and the exact sequence of events. Historical perspectives on the case have also evolved. Modern scholarship often examines the case through the lens of gender studies, legal history, and the sociology of the late 19th century. These studies provide deeper insights into the societal norms and legal practices of the time, offering possible explanations for the trial's outcome and the public's reaction to it. The Lizzie Borden case's enduring appeal lies in its combination of mystery, societal implications, and the universal themes of family, justice, and the pursuit of truth. As new generations discover this story, it continues to evoke curiosity, debate, and a deeper understanding of the complex tapestry of human nature and society.